everyone, Redmist back, and this time we've got 25-man version of Freya. Freya is quite a challenging fight. This is easy mode. We've done hard mode on 10-man, but not yet on 25. So once you've killed the elementals and all the trash in the area, which takes a little bit of time, a bit easier now since they've nerfed the trash, you'll pull Freya. Now there's no point in DPSing Freya at the beginning because she has a stacking healing buff on her, which means that she's permanently healed for the encounter. This is a fight that's all about the ads. At the beginning you can see that you'll get a set of ads, and we'll go through each of these ads as we watch the fight. So the thing I'm hitting at the moment is a tree, and that tree is a healing tree. Basically, if you don't kill it before it fully grows, it'll bloom and it'll heal her and all of the ads in the area by 60% of their health in 25-man, by 30% in 10-man, which makes it virtually impossible to kill these ads before the 60 seconds have passed and you get your next wave of ads. So tank Freya, keep her out of the way a little bit, and then work on the ads. Now these three ads that are summoned, a Storm Lasher, Snap Lasher and an Ancient Water Spirit, and they need to be tanked and managed in a very careful way. Now one of the problems that you get with this fight is the Snap Lasher, that one we have sitting on a druid tanking that one. As you hit it, it effectively has a stacking buff that is applied to that particular mob, and you'll need to stop DPS on it and wait for that debuff to go away and then start DPS again. So those three little ads, I recognise we're looking at the a bigger dude at the moment, but those three ads, those water spirits, need to be managed very, very carefully. They need to be killed all at the same time. You're going to need to set melee. What we do is we have melee swapping between them to even them up to make sure they die. It's a bit like the Core Hound packs in Molten Core if you've ever been there. Okay. Once you've killed those, if you've done it within 60 seconds, the next mob will come up. Now we'll have a look at these ones now. These ones here are tiny little lashers. Now you're going to need to gather them up. This is the way we do it. We gather everything up all in one spot. We frost nova them, we AoE them, we put everything near the tank because these things run around like crazy. And we AoE them all down to around about 18% health, 15% health, and then we spread out and then we kill them individually. Now the reason we do that is because when they die, they detonate and they do a reasonable amount of damage. It's 5.4k in 25-man version, a little bit less in 10-man. So you don't want to be all grouped up when you kill these. Now at the same time as doing all of these ads, notice that we continually get these green trees that are spawning. Now we have, in this case we had a hunter and a boomkin, but you really need to designate a couple of ranged DPS to manage those trees and make sure they're killed throughout the entire fight. So here we have the three ads again. Now of those three ads, one casts a tidal wave which knocks you out of the way, one casts a storm bolt which does a reasonable amount of damage. That's the one that I'm hitting at the moment. What I'm doing is I'm trying to interrupt those storm bolts every time that my earth shock is off of cooldown. If you can have a couple of melee working on that, it helps reduce the raid damage quite a bit. So again, work on these, and at the time we're doing this particular fight, continually killing those trees, but what we're doing is we're calling out stop on Snap Lasher because the debuff is up, start on Snap Lasher when the debuff drops. You can't even have the tank hitting the Snap Lasher when that debuff is on that particular mob. So here you can see very nicely all three of those mobs went down, plenty of time to get before the next wave, and in this case the next wave, after we've killed the tree, is the big guy. Now we call this guy the Mushroom Man, and the reason is that you need to drag him to the mushrooms. Now what happens that when you're doing this particular fight is he places kind of a debuff on everyone, and that debuff effectively silences you and stops you from doing pretty much anything, unless you're stood underneath the mushrooms. When you're stood underneath the mushrooms, you can hit, damage, DPS, and maintain aggro if you're a tank on this particular mob. This is the easy mob. The hardest one in my opinion is the three elementals together. This particular mob is easy to blast down. One of the things that you need to make sure that happens is that the tank needs to spot the mushrooms quickly and drag the mob to the mushrooms, because he won't be generating any aggro on this mob whilst he's not underneath a mushroom, and therefore hitting the creature particularly hard. So another wave comes up and it's all the little ones. So we group up together, the tank included. Frost Nova, AoE, beat these ads down until we get to about 20% on the ads. In this case we separated a little bit early, but some were on the edge and didn't receive quite as much damage. So again, separate so that you don't cause too much raid damage. These mobs can be stunned, so if you can stun, do so to keep them away from everybody else. As a hybrid class, it's useful to help out a little bit with healing if you can during this particular phase, because the raid damage can be quite high if these mobs happen to die next to each other. Now, a few other things that happen throughout this fight. She'll occasionally cast like a sunbeam effect, which is this sort of big yellow beam that comes out of the sky, and it does a reasonable amount of damage, so you'll need to throw a little bit of extra healing on the person that gets that chucked on them. Okay, now we've entered the second phase of the fight after we've killed all the trash and the ads. So at this point in the fight you've pretty much won if you manage the raid health quite well and you're careful with your positioning. Now the reason you need to be careful with your positioning is you'll notice that she starts to drop these little exploding plants everywhere. And they do quite a bit of damage if you're stood on them when they explode, so you need to get the tank to drag people away from those ads, those little plants. In addition, during this phase you'll still get the trees growing, so you'll still need to kill those trees or she'll get healed. Clark casts some Bloodlust here, burn the boss down the last 30 odd %. Still trying to avoid those exploding plants. You also still get the sunbeams, you see one there. Hit Romek, and he got healed very quickly. Help the tank a little bit by calling out if they need to move, because it's hard to see those little plants underneath the melee's feet. We lost a few people here to a little bit of unlucky raid damage from the sunbeam plus the exploding plants that they didn't see under their feet. And there we've defeated Freya. It's a tricky fight until you get used to dealing with those ads. You've got to kill them within 60 seconds, which can be a little bit awkward if you've got a couple of DPS dead. Here's the loot that dropped. A brilliant physical melee DPS neck item, which I got last week. A couple of leg plates. It's a fantastic fight. Good fun. Much harder with the elementals up. Hope you enjoy it. Bye.